Hi, everybody. Welcome back to Psychic Diaries. I'm Michael Lamport. I am the narrator and producer of the psychic show Rescue Mediums. And with me, as always, is the indefatigable Jackie Dennison, who is the host of Rescue Mediums and the owner of Feathers Academy in the north of England. On this episode, we're very lucky to have a unique guest who's had a unique experience, which she writes about in her book, Flying Beyond the Stars. And well, without any further ado, let me introduce you all to Kady Kearton. Hi, Kady.
Hi.
Hi, Kady.
Hi, Jackie.
I'm loving the fact that you've got butterflies behind you on the wall. You know, the butterfly motifs that always symbolize transformation to me. Wonderful.
I've got it on mine.
Oh, yay! And you have the butterfly there as well. Fabulous. So, Michael, I think you have a question for Kady.
Yeah, Kady, for those that haven't read the book yet, can you tell us what happened to you that was a unique and unforgettable experience when you were in your 40s?
Oh, I was 46 years old. It's 30 years ago, but it seems as if it happened yesterday. It was dawn, and I was waiting for my ex to wake up, and I didn't want to disturb him because it put him in a bad mood if I woke him up before he was ready. So I was just listening to the dawn chorus, and I was thinking about things, you know, what I had to do in the day, and I was looking forward to going home to my family because I wasn't at home. And as I was thinking about things, all of a sudden, I felt as if an elephant had stamped down on my chest, or a concrete block had been thrown on it. I couldn't breathe. I didn't panic, because I hadn't had it as bad as that before, but I'd had episodes of it since my teens. But so I learned not to panic, and I just waited for it to go. But it didn't go. It didn't get better. And all of a sudden, I catapulted out of my body.
Wow.
I shot out of my body. It was as if I catapulted out of it. And I found myself to the left of my body, looking down at it. And I didn't have any pain, that had gone. And I wasn't concerned. I wasn't bothered.
Wow.
It felt strange, and I sort of felt a love for that body. And I stayed looking at it for ages, what seemed like a long time, until I got bored looking at it. I got fed up with that. And to the left of me, in the corner of the room, this dark mist, suddenly greyish dark mist appeared. And I thought, oh, what's that? And as I thought that, it pulled me into it, sort of sucked me, pulled me into it. And I found myself in a dark tunnel. But it wasn't a bothersome darkness. It wasn't scary. It was comforting. And then it opened up into a sort of vortex. And I found myself with my arms outstretched in front of me, flying through it. And as I flew through it, it got lighter and lighter and colourful, beautiful colours. But I couldn't see outside the vortex. It seemed to me it was a protective vortex, and I was enjoying it. It was lovely. I felt safe. It felt exciting. It just felt wonderful, and I knew I had to reach this light that was far off. It seemed like thousands of miles in the distance, tiny light. And as I was speeding, I was really speeding fast towards it with my arms outstretched. I couldn't see my arms. I just knew they were outstretched in front of me. And as I was speeding through this vortex, the light was getting bigger and bigger. But I didn't want to reach that light quickly because I was enjoying myself. I don't know why. I just felt happy and safe and good, no pain. I forgot about everything. I'd forgotten my family, my partner, my little boy, forgot everything. I was just enjoying it. And I travelled a long, long way. And then somebody joined alongside me. But I couldn't see who it was. Somebody joined me on the right of me. I could just feel the presence. And we travelled on a long way. And then it spoke to me. And it said, your body is indeed dead, but you are safe. And I thought, well, I know my body's dead. I know I'm safe. I'm all right, thank you. Just carried on, enjoying it. And this being carried on with me. But the voice sounded like family. It sounded like either my grandfather or one of my uncles, one of his sons. Lovely, lovely voice it was. But it sounded more than I remembered. You know what I mean?
So it was comforting and not
very
scary.
comforting. Very comforting. And then we travelled on and on in silence. I knew my escort. I called him my guardian angel, my guardian escort. That's what I called it. And it was male, of course. But I couldn't see him. We travelled what seemed like thousands of miles. And then I thought of my eldest daughter. And as I thought of her, as I was travelling, I continued to travel, and at the same time, I became part of her consciousness. I was in her head. I was inside her. And it was absolutely beautiful. I didn't know she loved me that much.
Wow.
I told her I loved her. So I realised then, you know, I wouldn't see her again. I told her I loved her. And that I had to go. That's emotional, sorry.
Yeah.
And that we'd be together again one day, you know. And I said goodbye to her. And then carried on travelling. And then I became part of my son. His consciousness, and exactly the same thing happened. I said goodbye and left his consciousness, and then travelled on a long way. And how I reached my destination. And as I was almost at the end of my vortex, and I could feel the presence of all the loved ones that had died in my life, including my animals and my birds. I could feel them, and I could feel them. I knew they were welcoming me and excited because I was almost reaching them. And then I reached the edge of the vortex, and as I did so, but before I reached the edge of the vortex became transparent, and I could see outside of it, and what I could see were planets. I could see beauty in planets. They were beautiful. And of course then I reached the edge of the vortex, and what zoomed up in front of me was absolutely amazing. It was a huge, huge planet that looked like the Earth, but more beautiful. More vibrant.
Yes.
With lots of silver, but like I don't know, it's hard to explain. And you never guess what happened. I remembered my little boy, who was only 4.5 at the time. I'd forgotten all about him. And as I remembered him, I said to my guardian, who was still with me, I said, well, who's going to look after my little boy now? Because he was in and out of hospital. He was in hospital at the time. He was with his dad. And then I was shown him. I was shown him as if I was looking down through the vortex and the tunnel, and I could see him standing there, and it broke my heart
Oh,
because he was grieving for his mum. He wanted to be home with his mum.
mm,
Oh,
yeah.
And then, I mean, that was dreadful. I think I went into some sort of shock. I
Yeah.
couldn't leave him, could I? But I didn't
Mm.
want to come back. No
Yes.
way did I want to come back. And then my guardian angel with the relative's voice said, this need not be your time. You decided.
Oh
And
my
I
God.
thought, well, I didn't know I decided. I don't want to go back. But then I thought, well, I can't leave him.
Mm.
And I was about turned, and I found myself zooming back, and which wasn't too bad. And then as I got closer and closer to the earth, I didn't like it at all, because it got dark, and it wasn't a nice feeling dark. And I panicked a little bit, but that didn't last long. Then I was back in my body, and you took a breath, and I was breathing beautifully.
Wow.
And I was on cloud 9. And I wanted to tell my ex, there was this line at the side of me. And I thought, oh no, I dare not wake him up. I'll wait until we're at breakfast and tell him. And I didn't want to disturb him. And at breakfast, I started to tell him, but he didn't want to know. He just wanted us to get on with the work that we had to do that day and get me home, you know. So I didn't ever tell him.
hmm.
So that was that. But what I couldn't understand is while I was in my vortex and I felt the love of my children, I felt nothing from him whatsoever. Nothing
Wow.
at all. And of course, I became dissatisfied with him after my NDE, and I discovered a lot of things about him. He was a very, very bad person. So
Yeah.
if I
So
hadn't had my NDE,
it was a realization in a lot of ways, wasn't it? You know, realization for that particular relationship. I mean, the fact that you'd had that experience and you wanted to share it with your partner at the time, and he wasn't interested in listening to you.
He didn't want to know.
No, you know, and the fact that you'd had a near-death experience, you know, you'd have thought he'd have said, oh my God, are you okay? How is, you know, should we get you checked over? You know,
Oh, yes, I hadn't thought of that.
yeah, you know.
No, none of that. I was
my goodness.
completely under
Well,
his
you know,
control.
he was meant to be an ex for a reason then, obviously.
Absolutely.
Kady, are you still able to connect with what you've described as your guardian angel, or the angel that helped you with your out-of-body experience?
Yes, I feel that I think he's helped me a lot, and I think it was his doing that I saw my late husband before I even met him. I walked into my bedroom. It was about 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and I always used to love to watch the afternoon film on Channel 5, British TV. And I thought, well, I've got some chocolate in the drawer at the side of my bed, so I'll get that and enjoy myself before I have to, you know, start the evening meal. And walked into my bedroom, and something to the right of me in midair caught my eye. And it was as if I was watching a video. And I saw this long table with 6 people sitting around it. There were 4 men and 2 women, and the gentleman at the end was silver hair. And I could hear them laughing at what this gentleman at the end was saying, and I could hear them talking, but I couldn't understand what they were saying. But I was enjoying it. I wasn't frightened. And then all of a sudden, it was as if somebody switched it off. It was gone.
Huh.
And I got my chocolate. I didn't eat it. Didn't even watch it. I had the film on, but I couldn't take it in, you know. I only told one person about it, my best friend, and she said, "Oh, well, you better go and see a doctor, haven't you?" I didn't, but nearly 3 weeks later, I drove into this little town I'm at now, you know, Hernbeck, and I'd done my shopping, and I was a bit late finishing it because all the cafes and everything were closing, and I always liked a coffee or two before I went back to my car. And so I thought, oh, right, I better go back to the car. I was crossing the road, and I had another severe asthma attack. I didn't have an inhaler with me. There was nobody about. Everything was closing up. But I managed to get to the other side of the road. I mean, somebody did walk by, but he ignored me. Perhaps he thought I was drunk, because I found myself outside a pub. And I remembered that when I'd gone into this bookshop some while before, the chap behind the counter said to me, "Oh, if you want a good coffee, you know, you go there. They do the best coffee, you know, in town." So I remembered that, and I thought, well, it was still open, and it still had the tables, you know, with the brollies and all that side, but nobody about. I thought, well, if I can get to the door, get a cup of coffees, because I know that coffee has theophylline in it, which is what you have in the inhalers. Right. And as long as I stay still and a cup of coffee, I can usually get back on my feet. I managed to get in there. I had a lot of help. It was packed with people. And I read a newspaper for a while until I felt okay. When I felt reasonably okay, I looked up, because I felt everybody was looking at me. You know, I looked up, and to the right of me was the long table, highly polished, with the 6 people, the 4 men, the 2 women, I knew all their faces, and the gentleman on the end with the silver hair. And he was cracking them up with whatever he was saying. And I stared and stared until one of the women gave me a dirty look enough to say, "Who are you looking at?" You know. So I didn't look up again until I felt strong enough to pick up my bags, because I had shopping with me as well. And I just went to pick my shopping up. I stood up, and I felt somebody's hand on my left elbow. And he said, "You know, would you like me to help you to the door with your shopping?" And I knew before I looked up who it was. It was the gentleman with the silver hair on the end. And he didn't just help me to the door, he helped me to my car. And I felt I'd come home. It was wonderful. And he ended up as my husband.
That's fantastic.
Wow.
And he always said that, oh, there you are, I can see you, Michael. He always said that it was his late wife that brought us together. Yes.
Yeah, that's lovely. What a lovely story. You know, that you know, Spirit has shown you that. Sorry, I've got dogs and they're playing. It doesn't sound like they're playing, but they are.
I know the bark. It really is. I know the bark.
And you know that you'd had that vision before, you know, in your own home 3 weeks earlier. That, I mean, how amazing is that? That
amazing.
And do you feel your spirit guide, your loved one in spirit, who had been guiding you? Do you feel that lovely person had created that scene for you to see?
This is what I feel.
Yeah.
Absolutely. But
Yeah.
I do think I've got more than one guardian angel.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
In spirit. So I've got my uncle that is so much like Michael.
Oh.
Yes. But the thing is, this happened before I had my NDE. But I think I've had a few NDEs since my teens, because I would leave my body, go up to the ceiling, look back at it, and then find myself back in my body again.
Yeah.
So I think I touched spirit.
Did that happen? Do you think, Kady, that happened because there was something medically wrong and you'd left the body, or do you think it was like a an involuntary, you know, you just leave the body. I teach people how to do that, how to astral travel, how to, you know, leave the physical, disconnect the physical and the spiritual, so the spiritual can travel. You're doing it spontaneously.
Oh, it was spontaneous.
Yeah.
And
So,
I asked my mother, you know, why was this happening? And she said, oh, I mean, she'd been a state registered nurse, so she should have known better.
yeah.
And she said, oh, you're probably just anemic. I'll get you some iron tablets and some vitamin C.
Oh.
But it didn't help. But I didn't know that I was a silent asthmatic. And I
Right.
didn't know for years later until I was told that my father was a silent asthmatic and it contributed to his death. Nobody told me because we left him when I was 11. So
Okay.
thankfully he was a drunk.
It's very weird how we, like you mentioned that somebody said to you before, one of your partners, I think you should go see a doctor. And then you're saying now that this person is saying, oh, you should do this. We always run to the medical field before we explore our spirituality, I think. And I think that's really sad.
Well, we've been conditioned to do that, haven't we? Yes, we've been brought up that way.
Yeah.
But you see, I was a young woman. I think I must have been 29 or something, and ended up here on the southeast coast, and was supposed to be put up by a relative. The relative who had caused me a lot of trouble in my life, but I still loved her, and I still believed her and trusted. And when I got there, she changed her mind. So we had nowhere to go. Absolutely, you know, I had a baby, and my little daughter was 4.5 too. And you know, evening was coming on, and it was raining, and it was cold. But we couldn't find a B&B or a hotel because I think it was her Queen Mother was visiting, something like. It was one of the royal family, so we couldn't find anywhere to stay. And my ex-husband, bless him, he lives close by. He said, well, he'll go on ahead into town and he'll see what he can find. And I was to meet him at the bus station, so that was okay. So he went on ahead, and I sorted the baby out, and walking to the bus stop, and all of a sudden Shirley said, oh look, Mummy, there's Uncle on the bus. And I looked up, and it was.
Wow.
It didn't seem, although he shouldn't have been in this area, it didn't seem unusual because he was always flitting around the place. You never knew where he was, looking for work, you know. He was my uncle, miles from the bus. The bus was going at our speed at the side of the sidewalk pavement, and he was mouthing something to me, and finally I understood. I got it. I got the details, and then the bus picked up speed and it was gone. And I saw my husband, who was beside himself, and but I said, it's okay. I know what to do. I know where to go. We went there. We actually stayed for 6 months. We had a wonderful welcome.
Oh, fantastic.
So we found our own place. Yes. So he gave me information I had no way of knowing.
No.
I knew incredible. The area, but I didn't know the address, and he gave me the address.
Incredible.
And that was wonderful. But I didn't know that he was dying 400 miles away, and he died soon afterwards.
Yeah. Wow.
So I saw his spirit, and he helped me. So what amazes me is we think, oh, this life is boring and this life is whatever. This is not the only life we live. This is a temporary life, isn't it?
Yeah.
We are part of a spirit life, but this is a temporary life.
Yeah.
But we are just experiencing for a while.
Exactly.
Thankfully, I wouldn't want it to go on. I wouldn't want to come back and do it all over again, though.
But your near-death experience, Kady, did you find that that sort of opened your psychic ability, your spiritual connections?
I did, very much so.
Yeah.
But only regarding myself, not anyone else.
Mm,
I can't help other people.
mm. So it made you
But
spiritual. And I've read your book, and it is absolutely a fascinating book. I mean, I really could not put it down. I know people say, well, oh, it's so good, I couldn't read it. I could not put it down. It's
that's
fascinating. And to hear you speak the words that you've written in that book is really incredible, because it is an incredible, I almost don't want to say story, because it is your life story, and not a story that is just, you know, somebody's written it as fiction. This is facts. This actually happened to you.
fact.
Yeah. And
But
you have met some in the book. You've said that you sort of, you were guided to people, or people were guided to you, or drawn to you, who'd had similar experiences.
that's amazing, isn't it?
Yeah.
I'd been visiting my brother, and I was travelling home. Again, a bus was involved, now a coach. And I was heading for the coach, and I had to cross this very, very busy road. I mean, it was frighteningly busy. And there was a little old lady trying to cross as well. Very pretty old lady. She had honey-coloured hair going grey. She was beautifully dressed. Well, eventually we crossed together safely, and then as we were walking to the coach station, we struck up a conversation, and just out of the blue, she said, "Could I tell you something? Do you mind if I tell you something? An experience I've had." And she told me that she was in her kitchen this day. She was widowed. She was English. She was in her kitchen one day, and she got a sharp pain in her head. She was filling the kettle, and she found herself falling to the floor. And the next thing she knew, she was outside on the pavement, on the sidewalk, and she was amongst all her neighbours, and they were watching this ambulance go off, you know. And she asked somebody beside of her what was going on. She was ignored, so she asked another neighbour, and she was ignored. So she sent up silent prayer, she said, for whomever was in the ambulance, that they'd be okay. And she turned to go into her home. Instead, she found herself inside the ambulance. And she was very, very angry, because she just wanted to be outside with her neighbours. She didn't want to be in this ambulance. She was very cross with them. But by the time she got to the hospital, she apologised, she said.
Yeah.
I thought that was amazing, but I didn't get to tell her about my own experience.
Yeah. I mean, how random is that she wanted to tell you? She just wanted to tell you. Yeah.
Because I talk to people now since my NDE.
Yeah.
And people talk to me, but most of my life I've been very incommunicado.
Yeah. Yeah.
Since my NDE, people talk to me now. And I don't talk to anybody now at the bus stop or wherever. Can't drive anymore, not well enough.
I think you're talking to us, so it's true that you talk to anybody.
Sorry?
Kady, what advice would you give to any of our viewers, young or older, about an experience like this? Like, what should they embrace feelings like this? Because like you, I mean, you weren't scared, but I imagine some people are very scared of this.
Well,
so what advice would you give?
Well, I would advise people to examine people's NDEs, because there's a lot of truth in them, a lot of reality in them. I was very afraid of death, because I was brought up a born-again Christian, and very strongly, and I studied theology for 5 years. but it's nothing to do with religion. Religion is a comfort for us. It's something we seek to explain our reality, isn't it?
Yeah,
But,
absolutely.
yes, but I would advise them, if they're afraid of dying, to check out NDs,
Mm. Yeah.
because there's a lot of truth in them. This isn't the only life we live.
Yeah.
I was very frightened of death, but when it actually happened, I wasn't afraid at all, and it was nothing as I imagined. I expected I'd die, I'd be in the ground for 1,000 years, we were taught, until Christ comes in the heavens and he raises everybody from the dead and we meet him in the sky. But it didn't happen immediately. I wasn't dead in the grave. I was myself. I was just in a different reality. I just wasn't in my biological body anymore.
And you were very aware, weren't you? You were very aware that your biological body was still there, and that you had separated from that.
Yes.
And you were seeing absolutely amazing colours, and it was almost like you were feeling the colours, as though you were feeling that unconditional love.
I was part of them.
Yes.
I was part of the colours and the lights. Yes.
Awesome.
Utterly amazing. I am still shocked. I'm still in awe. I'm still living what happened to me 30 years ago.
Yeah.
But it's changed my life completely. It's given me courage. Gave me courage to leave my ex because it was very controlling.
Yeah.
It gave me courage to do things for my children that I wouldn't have thought of doing. I would never have thought of writing a book, talking to people at bus stops.
Yes.
When I went into cafes, and I loved cafes, I would shake because I was so shy. But I had a very violent upbringing, a violent father, so all because of pain. So, and rather than go the way my brother did, he became very defensive and he'd fight anybody. I went into myself. So, but my NDE changed all that. Yes. So I would advise people to look into, to forget about the stigma and everything, put everything aside, and glean what you can.
Yeah, from people's experiences,
From those,
like yourself. I would advise anybody to read your book. I know that it's available on Kindle, isn't it?
And in paperback.
And in paperback as well. I've got the Kindle version of it, and it's called Flying Beyond the Stars by Kady Kearton. We're going to put that link at the end of the video. Yeah. Look at that beautiful cover. Isn't that gorgeous?
I don't know.
Wow.
Yeah, it really is. I think I'm going to have it in paperback as well. You can't beat paperback, can you? You can't beat picking up a book in your hand. No. And the smell of the paper.
Yes.
There. Now you wrote that book not just to recount your own experience, but because you wanted to share that experience with other people, so that they could share how you felt, to take the stigma of death and dying out, that fear factor.
It's been very hard to write it, because I might look all right, but I'm actually very ill. I've been here for years and I shouldn't really be here, but it was my choice to come back, so I've got to grin and bear it. But it's been very hard. But my two sons helped me to give me a focus, because I was missing my late husband so much. He died. We were only married for 3 years. We were together 3 years. We were married 15 months.
Yeah.
And,
he was the gorgeous man that you saw in the vision before.
Yes.
Before you met him.
Absolutely gorgeous.
Yeah.
Yes. And I always looked much younger than he was. He was older than I am. But
it's very sad about his passing.
Sorry?
It's very sad about his passing, but he probably, in his passing, went through the same vortex and experience that you did.
Yeah.
So he went through to be open and accepted and loved And so, I mean, that's something that we can all think about. It's always sad when somebody passes, but
I miss him, yes.
you should think beyond that.
Yeah.
I got to think beyond that. We'll be together one day. But I came into his life because he needed me, and he really did, and vice versa. But
Yeah.
he also, he had died, left his body, and found himself up in the corner of the room, looking down at his body. And he knew his arms were folded, but he couldn't see them. He was looking down at his body, and he said to himself, "I do feel sorry for that poor sod down there." That's the type of person he was. He was lovely. He made everybody happy. He didn't have a bad bone in his body or a bad word to say about anybody.
Wonderful.
It was very special.
Yeah.
Yes, and he had another experience too. When he buried his wife, came home, he was about to go into the bedroom to change out of his funeral clothes, and his late wife was standing in the doorway. And he said, "Oh, what are you doing here, pet? We just buried you." And her lips didn't move, but she said to him, "I'm all right." And then she was gone.
How wonderful. How
That's
That's
wonderful,
beautiful.
isn't it?
Yes.
But I've had the same experiences. My mother died in 75, and 1997, I'd torn a tendon in my ankle, and it was very bad because I hadn't gone to have it sorted when I should have done. And so I had to sit downstairs on the settee. I woke up 5 a.m. I don't know why I woke up, but all of a sudden, my mother was between the settee and the wall, which was an impossibility because the settee was right flush to the wall. And she was doing this. Her arms were going through my leg. Her arms were literally going through one of my legs.
Wow.
And it took a while for the penny to drop. She was trying to lift my leg because my ankle had wedged itself down the side of the settee.
Gosh.
And then when I cottoned on and I sat up and I lifted it with my hands. And but the love I could feel from her was overwhelming.
Incredible.
And as soon as I'd lifted my ankle out, she was fading away. And I was saying, "Mum, please don't go, Mum, don't go." But she'd gone.
Yeah.
And then in 2002, again, I was going to watch the afternoon film. It came on at 3:15. And this time, I was walking into the sitting room towards my armchair, and my mother was standing behind it. This time, I saw her through a veil of beautiful silvers and pinks and blues, through a veil of colours, shining colours. It's beautiful, but it was the love.
Yeah.
The love was overwhelming, I could feel. And again, I was saying, "Please don't go, Mum. Don't go just yet. Don't go." But she'd gone.
Yeah.
She faded away. I also saw my dog one afternoon at this seminar. I was lost in what the speaker was saying. Lots of people around me. And something caught my eye near his feet. And it was a dog that had died 27 years previously, dragging around his feet. And she was as real as my son who's just walked in the door. She was as real as him. You know,
Wow.
it was wonderful. And her coat was beautiful, and her little white ruff, you know, there. I was fascinated, utterly fascinated. And I was watching her for a long while. And as I watched her, she faded away.
Yeah.
And I looked round at all the people. They were all oblivious. Only I had seen her. I was elated. I went round the town telling everybody what had happened to me. And well, everybody listened. I don't know what they thought of me, but they all listened. It was
amazing.
incredible.
Amazing.
The other thing I've realised, now this is just a realisation, because it happened to me, when the pain in our body from an accident or whatever gets too much to bear, we leave our body. We're mercifully taken out of it.
Yes.
You know, like if you've been burnt at the stake or something, they mercifully are taken out of it. It's just a realisation that's come to me. So what do you think of that?
Well, I thankfully I've not had that happen to me, where I've been in so much pain that has happened. But I have spoken to other people who are recounting the same thing that you are, that we are disconnecting from our physical and going up. I think it's healing on another level. I think we're healing on an astral plane. That's my thought pattern on it. Is that's what happens. It's like the physical, we have to separate in order for the healing to take place in mentally, emotionally and physically, but separate in that way.
When the pain got so bad on my chest,
you
could imagine if you had a concrete block pressing down in your chest, or an elephant's foot. I was suddenly out of my body, out of it. No pain. I was free of the pain.
And your thing is, you remember every part of that, so it's not like you completely blacked out. You've remembered every part of that journey, including what you were feeling, what you were witnessing, and that unconditional love that you experienced there. And there's so many people that have talked about through near-death experience that they've experienced that tunnel that you talk about. You know, the mist that appears and then the tunnel that's there.
And the mist as well.
Yeah. Oh, yes. Yeah. The mist that clears. Yeah. The mist that clears. Now, because I do, because I work mediumistically and I meditate, I've experienced that mist that you're talking about through meditation.
Really?
Yeah. So I've not, it's not a near-death experience, but I've got on that spiritual awareness where I've attained a level of being able to go through so far.
Wow.
So, yeah.
Well, that's why when you say mystical, the first part of the word mist.
Well, I never thought of that.
I guess the one thing that people would be scared of, I don't think I am, but it's returning to the body. It's like, okay.
I didn't like it. I didn't like that at all.
No, you said it was dark. And
yes. Well, once I was in my body, it was all right, except it was heavy. But it took a breath, and then it was breathing beautifully. And I was full of joy because I knew we go on. And I wanted everybody to know.
Right.
I couldn't tell him. I mean, this was 30 years ago. I couldn't tell everybody. I told my children, and they believed me because I'm mum, aren't I?
Yeah.
So they listened to me, but my friend wouldn't believe it. Yes, I was afraid to tell other people until somebody came up to me and gave me a book, and it was about people who had died and come back, and then I started to tell more people, and you know, but I have relatives who will not speak to me because my experience is of the devil. But I would have thought exactly the same before I died and came back.
Right.
Because I was brought up that way. It
Uh-huh.
was hellfire and brimstone religion.
Yeah.
And I believed it.
Yeah.
And I studied it, and I was entrenched in it. So I love them, and I can't hold it against them.
No. You know, and I think in talking today, I'm sure there are a lot of people who may have had maybe have similar views prior to that you may have opened their eyes a little bit because you have, because of your approach prior to having the near-death experience. and the awareness since then, that those people will view this and think, oh, do you know what, I'm gonna go and read up about that. I'm gonna get some
Just
more opinion.
inquire.
Yeah, and inquire.
Just have an open mind and inquire.
Yeah.
Someone said, oh, it's just the devil appearing as your loved ones. You know, it's just the devil hoodwinking you. No, not at all.
No.
It's very, very real. And the other thing is, it's the love. The love is undeniable. It's not the love we have here. You see, it happened last year when someone I wanted to marry when I was young, and because of the lies of someone who was jealous, malicious lies, all put in writing, it didn't happen. And these things always happen in the day to me. They don't come in dreams, they happen in reality.
Yeah.
And I'd come out here, make myself a cup of tea, in my scruffy nightie, because often I'm quite ill, you know. And I thought, well, I'll sit down with my cup of tea and listen to the 6 o'clock news. So I put my tea down at the side of the chair, my armchair, and I turned to go and sit down, and he was standing in front of me. And I said his name, like Old Jal, the name I gave him before. And as I said that, he came right through my body. By the time my bum hit the chair, he'd gone through my body. It was too quick, it was too short.
Yes.
But I felt every centimetre of him far greater than I felt when I knew him, when he was here. He was far more himself.
Yes.
It was utterly incredible. So what happened 50 odd years ago, what happened, they didn't win, did they? The malicious lies didn't win.
No.
The lies were not against me, they were against him, because of jealousy against me, if you know what I mean. And
that love was still there. That love's still there. You felt that as he walked through you. You felt that.
Absolutely. I was walking on air. It was incredible because we didn't even have a photograph of each other. I recognized him immediately, and he wouldn't have known where I was. And he found me and connected with me. So, you know, we're connecting now, spirit. And it won't matter that, you know, he's been married to someone else, so have I. It won't matter at all, because I know that it's the love I have for him and the love I have for my late husband and my ex-husband. It's all different and it's all special.
Yes.
And it can't be taken away.
No, that's the thing.
It can't be taken away. And there's no rivalry when you're on the other side. There's nothing like that. All you feel is that love, that you're one with that person you're with at the time, that you merge with. So I'm looking forward to that. I am looking forward to that. It's hard to stay here. But I've got my family, I've got a mortgage to pay off.
Yeah. The reality.
The reality.
You know what, Kady? You are an absolutely fascinating person to talk to. You really are. I thoroughly enjoyed our time together this afternoon. I'm sure Michael has.
Yeah, it did.
Oh, well, I love Michael because he's the epitome of what I grew up with. I can't believe it, because I always thought these producers were, you know, not Michael. Lovely. And of course I've got used to you. I loved your programs. I love your bubbliness.
That's kind.
Cheerfulness. It's lovely.
Thank you.
Yes. That goes a long way, because you make everybody feel a friend at home, and so does Michael.
Yeah.
Yes. And that's a gift. That really is a gift.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
People, you know, who are shy. It's lovely to have people like that come into your sitting room. Do you know what I mean?
Oh, what a lovely
Yeah.
thing to say.
Oh, well, it's true, isn't it? You know, since my ND, I say whatever comes into my mind.
That's not a bad thing.
Never have
That's
done.
not a bad thing at
Never
all.
have done. I only answered yes or no to people. I was
Yeah.
the extreme. I was very troubled because of my past. But my NDE changed me.
It changed your life. And, you know, people should buy a copy of your book and they can read your story for themselves, because I know there's a lot more in the book than we
There's
talked
so
about
much more I
today.
want to tell you, but
Yeah,
we haven't got the time.
we haven't. We are going to have to say adios amigo for now, I'm afraid, but maybe we can catch up again another time.
Oh, brilliant. Yes, I'm
That would
going
be
to
great.
write. Sorry?
That
Sorry,
would be
Michael?
great. If we could catch up again, Kady, that would
That'd
be
be
great.
lovely. Bless you. I don't want to leave either of you.
Well, I'm going to have to go and let the dogs out now because they're whining and whining and whining, and so I'm going to love you and leave you for now and say thank you so much for today.
I thank you. I thank you both. It's been lovely talking to you. And I'm walking on air now because I've spoken to both of you. I mean, I was very nervous.
Bye.
Thank you, Kady.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
See you next time.
Thank you. Bye to both of you.